Welcome back to Retro Game Coders. My name is Chris. Today's episode is inspired by Dungeons and Dragons. In fact, we're going to create a character generator. If you're not familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, the way that characters are created, each character has various statistics: strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. And they're generated usually using dice rolls. And that's something we can do in Commodore 64 BASIC. And this is my character. He's a level 4 Dwarf Warlock, and he's got a strength of 11, a dexterity of 13, constitution of 16, and so on. These are numbers between 1 and 20. But with our BASIC program, we can do the same thing. We can generate each statistic randomly and print them out on screen. And to do this, we're going to use 3 of the 4 attributes of a structured program. We're going to use subroutines with GOSUB, sequences using things called arrays or lists, and we're going to iterate using for next. What we're not going to do this time round is any logic. That'll come up next time. Random numbers are generated in Commodore BASIC using the RND command. Now, computers aren't known for being able to generate truly random numbers, but it's near enough for our purposes. And to make it better, to make it more random, to make sure we get a new selection every time, what we use is a built-in timer, which is TI. TI counts jiffies, so not seconds, not microseconds, its own weird thing. So we can say R equals RND, open bracket, minus TI, and that'll initialize our random generator. And then every time we call RND, open bracket 1, close bracket, we'll get a random number between 0 and 1. Never 0, never 1. So just as a reminder, we've got numbers and we've got strings. In Commodore 64 BASIC, unlike most programming languages, unlike most computers, in Commodore 64 BASIC, integers are not faster. They're actually slower than using the regular floating point numbers. Floating point means that you've got a decimal there, whereas an integer is a whole number between minus 32767 and positive 32767. It's a 16-bit integer. Another interesting thing about Commodore 64 BASIC is the variables are only unique by the first 2 characters of the variable name. So you can have longer names, but they're only unique because of the first 2 characters, unless they've got a different symbol. So the same name using num or num% symbol to say it's an integer can actually be used as a unique variable. Another restriction is you cannot use the name of any built-in BASIC command. We can also convert between variable types. So when we're doing a random number, we actually want a whole number, so we'll use the int command to convert it to an integer. But if we wanted to convert from a string to a number, we would use val, and to do the reverse, we would use str string. We can also use the ASCII representation, or in Commodore world we call it PETSCII because it's from the Commodore PET character set. And there you use ASC on the string to get the number, or use CHR $CHR string to get the character from the number. We can also get the absolute value. So if we do ABS 3, it is the same as ABS minus 3 because it takes the number and throws away the minus or the plus.
I have found that humans often use small talk during awkward moments. Therefore, I've written a new subroutine for that purpose.
Subroutines are very, very important for splitting your program into smaller, more manageable and more reusable parts. In Commodore BASIC, we use GOSUB. We use GOSUB to a line number. When we've done with our subroutine, we've done all the commands, we use return to go back to the next line after where we left from. For iteration, we're going to use the for loop. And what the for loop does is it increments a counter up to a value that you set. So in this example, for repetitions equals 0 to 9. When it hits 9, it will stop executing and go to the next part of your program. While we're in the loop, we can actually use the index and output it. It's set to a value. At the end of the loop, to go to the next iteration, we need to use next. We don't have to use the variable name because for loops can be nested, but it's good practice for readability to make sure they use the variable name. As well as individual variables, we can also have lists, and they're called arrays. They're numbered variables. By default, you can have 11 slots. This is something that catches a lot of people out. The arrays in Commodore BASIC start at 0. So if you have 10 slots, it would be 0 to 9. If you need more than 11 slots, then you need to dimension the array. And that tells your Commodore 64 how much memory to set aside. You can also have 2-dimensional arrays, which makes it like a grid or a matrix. In this case, I'm pointing to square 1, 1. So 1 across and 1 down. So this is our our D&D character generator, on the left we've got what it'll show on screen. It'll show for each attribute what our score is. First, we set the screen up, we clear the screen, we set the text to white, then we initialize our random number generator, as we mentioned before. For the individual attributes, we create an array with 6 slots, so we dimension it as 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then we loop through each attribute, and so we use a for loop, and we generate the random number for it. And for the random number generator, we're using the average of 4d20 dice rolls. That's not ideal because that can mean that we get quite low scores, but later on we can fix that by adding some logic.